Hey there, this is a brief tutorial on the Pokemon Showdown team building page for players who are new to the game or VGC in general. First, to create a team, you click Team Builder, and then New Team. And from here, you could see the general format you want to choose. For now, we are in Regulation F, so we will select VGC, let's see, VGC 2024, Reg F. From here, we could take two actions. Okay, the first and most simple process is if you want to simply insert a Pokepaste, which is essentially a rental team. You just click Import from Text or URL and paste the Pokepaste on the first line. I already have one loaded up, so we would do that. This is what it looks like. You can find Pokepaste on many YouTube channels and videos such as Cloverbells. You can also find a link to some great resources below if you need help getting started. There's no shame in using a Pokepaste. In fact, many competitive players use basically the same iteration, same pace on occasion. So I spam anyone. Click Import Export like I did, and you will see what the team has arrived with all the pre-input information pertaining to what team you wanted to try out. Make sure that whatever team you Pokepasted is in the correct format by clicking Validate here. It's all good to go. And then once you do that, you could name the team up here, whatever you choose to name it. And then you're going to hit save at the bottom of the screen if you want the team to appear across all devices you may use. Before we continue, it's important to note that Pokemon Showdown saves files locally onto whatever device you're using. So unless you click to save in the Showdown database, your team will not appear on another laptop, iPhone, etc. Similarly, if you do not save and you clear your computer's cache, your team will be deleted unless you upload to the Showdown database. Just a heads up, just like saving a game, saving your team is just as important. So for now, you just click save. So now we will deep dive into actual team building on Pokemon Showdown. So let's go back to the main menu, go back to Team Builder. So we're back at the, here we go, new team page right here. Make sure to select the format that you'll need. Again, we're going to choose VGC Reg F. Instead of importing, we'll now just click Add Pokemon. From here, you'll see everything that is available in the current regulations. Luckily, the team at Showdown is very proactive in making sure this roster is up to date and follows the competitive rulings. It's easy to get lost in this list. Suddenly, you have hundreds of options to choose from. We suggest that you view the current metagame to either find what other players are using or what Pokemon may be the perfect counter to those metagame mons. We've included some resources below to show you what some top players have been utilizing. Let's start with choosing one of the top Pokemon out there, Fluttermane. Love it or hate it, this is a heavy-hitting Pokemon, and you can alter it to be incredibly strong in offense or to take a beating so it doesn't get KO'd immediately. So let's type Fluttermane into the search. Here we go. And it pops up. So here is base level Fluttermane, which we will now have to fully customize to be acceptable for Showdown. Let's start with statistics. This is basically what you're going to be basing all subsequent customization on anyways. Here we go. Here you will see the 6 base stats of this specific Pokemon. All of them are important and will affect how it performs in battle. A high HP, defense, or special defense may translate to a Pokemon that can take more hits under certain circumstances. Higher HP means more hit points from which your opponent will need to drain in order to make your Pokemon faint. That part is pretty easy to understand. A higher defensive value and special defensive value is more complex, however. Better values towards defense will mean you may be able to take more hits from Pokemon utilizing attack moves, or signified by a symbol in red. We'll get there when we look at the moves. On the other hand, better values towards special defense will mean you may be able to better withstand attacks from Pokemon utilizing special moves, or moves that are signified by a blue symbol on Pokemon Showdown. So if you have a Pokemon that has a high special defense but very low defense, it is better able to withstand those special moves, but they may take a one-hit knockout from attacks outright. This is the case if Fluttermane generally takes Heavy Slam from an Iron Hands. When you consider how to allocate your own attack and special attack points, you will want to keep that in mind. If your Pokemon has very strong attack moves, concentrate on allocating points towards that. Whoop. If not, then allocate the points to special attack. If you have a support Pokemon who doesn't need to do both, don't really focus on either. Just keep in mind that whatever you allocate your points to do what types of moves you want to take into consideration. For example, don't pick Phantom Force. Let's bring that one up here. Phantom Force. Don't pick it if you know that Fluttermane is better at special attack, which it is. Instead, if you want a Ghost move, pick Shadow Ball or something that has more competitive merit. Lastly, we have speed down here. Speed is important in determining the turn order. In Pokemon Showdown, you play doubles, so you may need to take into consideration when you want the specific Pokemon to activate. If you want it to strike first, allocate your points towards maxing out speed and perhaps match it with a corresponding item to almost guarantee success. Of course, there are priority moves, which may upend the speed. If you are running a team that relies on moves like Trick Room, where the slowest Pokemon will activate first for several turns, you need to put the absolute lowest speed allocations you could get. So in this case, we would put it at 0. Now that we've touched on all the base stats, let's jump into EVs and IVs. An EV is an effort value right here, and an IV is an individual value. At its absolutely simplest level, IVs are the natural stats Pokemon accumulate that are randomized and are between 0 and 31 for each base stat. If you were playing Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, you max these out with hyper training via the Battle Cap guy. You can mess with the IVs a little bit by changing a Pokemon's nature, which we will examine shortly. You generally keep the one value you do not want your Pokemon to have at 0 while you max out the others to their full potential. This is so you can allocate more EVs into what actually matters. So, if we know that we won't be choosing any attacks for Fluttermane, and we will focus on special attacks, we'll put 0 for attack. So here you just automatically put 0. Easy. So let's move to EVs now, because essentially you're just keeping one stat super low for IVs and the rest super high. Oh, I'm sorry. This is supposed to be 0. My bad. Cool. Now for EVs, this is where things get rather complicated because you're doing all the allocations to create your Frankenstein monster competitive mon. To start, note this says remaining 508 here. That means we need to allocate 508 EVs. In Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, we would seek to min-max these EVs by battling certain Pokemon or using special items to raise or lower certain stats. It's complicated, but on Showdown, this is just a simple drag and drop slider. Let's allocate these points according to one of the, I guess, metas for Fluttermane that are out there. Let's see what we got. So in this case, we'll see that high speed, you want it to have some special defense, right? As well as special attack, so do some damage. Cool. Give it some decent HP, keep that attack at 0. And maybe we could just sort of mess with that like that. This isn't the perfect Fluttermane, but this is just an example. So it may suffer from having a relatively weak defense. It will. Its special defense is about double that, but perhaps you can alter the EVs to counter the current meta as best you can. Next, we look at nature at the bottom left. I know that I want to max Flutter's speed and minimize its attack because that stat is worthless. I would change the Pokemon's nature to timid because it does exactly that. See, right here. Timid plus speed minus attack. Now that we're done with stat building, let's move on to moves. A previous spread for Fluttermane focused on 4 moves: Shadow Ball, Moonblast, Substitute, and Protect. Let's just enter it now. Shadow Ball and Moonblast and Substitute and Protect. Cool. The previous meta spread allowed for an effective offense and defense and focused primarily on stab moves or same type attack bonus, which it does by choosing a Fairy and Ghost move. Both Shadow Ball and Moonblast can effectively damage an opposing Pokemon because they align with what your Pokemon is at its core. Please note that we also chose attacks that were based on special attack. Let me pull that up. You can see right here in that blue, that's exactly what I was talking about. So it aligns with what we allocated in EVs here, where we added more points to special attack, 0 to actual attack. Protect and Substitute allow for protection from potentially deadly moves. Unless you have a Pokemon that's solely used for aggression, typically at least half of one's team may have Protect or the equivalent, such as Spiky Shield. Next, let's move on to Terra type, which is right here. This is where you get to add your own unexpected flavor to a specific Pokemon. You can see that Flutter defaults to Ghost, but in reality, the meta is typically leaning towards typing it Fairy to amplify its Moonblast move. Terra typing is important in competitive because it adds a layer of strategic complexity. So, if I change Flutter's Terra to Fire here, it loses its Ghost Fairy typing and is then susceptible to all of Fire's weaknesses, so just be careful with this. You'll notice here that your Pokemon is level 50. This is what all Pokemon will default to in competitive, so keep this as is. The only other two items we'll worry about are items and abilities. Abilities right here. So, each Pokemon has a set of, or a standard ability. Flutter here has one ability, which is Photosynthesis, which says that if Sunny Day or Booster Energy is used, that it boosts speed to 1.5 if that is the highest allocation. Indeed it is. So it'll inform us what item we will use. Some players may ignore the Pokemon's ability altogether. However, if we want to take full advantage of Photosynthesis, we should search for Booster Energy. Stat buffing is incredibly important in VGC. In Trick Room, however, it could be fatal if speed is max. Just keep that in mind. Let's see what else is out there for Flutter in items. You'll notice items will typically focus on stat buffing, health, regeneration, or in miscellaneous outcomes. Another item you will see are Fairy Feathers, which boosts Flutters. Fairy moves or perhaps a Focus Sash, so that Flutter can be at one hit knocked out by Iron Hands. Each item has an opportunity cost, so just make sure to pick what best responds and hold to the current meta. Rest, like I said, Booster Energy. Now that we are done with Flutter main, you just click the plus button here and pick the remaining 5 Pokemon for your roster. Rinse and repeat the same ideas that we touched on. And when you're ready, click back to the team screen. I'm just going to keep choosing until we got 6. When you choose these 6, make sure that you don't pick the same item for any of them. That will invalidate your team, just as a heads up. Okay, let's go and validate now. It will say basically that all these need to be filled out. So just make sure to allocate all the EVs, and that way it'll actually validate. Cool. And then you would just upload to Showdown database to save it. Again, that's very important. There are 2 other buttons to take note of. So let's go back here at the bottom. Again, you would save once you're done, but let me draw your attention to Upload to Pokepaste and Upload to Pokepaste Open Team Sheet. Upload to Pokepaste will give you a literal Pokepaste that you can send to others to completely replicate your team. Or Upload to Pokepaste Open Team Sheet if you'd rather have a copy of your team that does not show its EV, IV allocations. This is what you'd use if you don't want to give away your secret sauce. Okay. Personally, I recommend you keep a spreadsheet or Word doc to keep your Pokepaste on there for safekeeping as a backup. Some people do accidentally delete their cache or don't save, and we don't want that to happen to you. So finally, to play with your new team, let's head back to the main menu. All right, click the format we want to play in. Again, VGC 2024 Reg F, for example. And your team should appear here, right here. See, the one that we just were working on. Always make sure the team you want matches what is shown. Otherwise, try to find it in the selection bar here. Okay. We also recommend clicking Don't Allow Spectators. Okay. In case you're scouted in a competitive setting. That would be unfortunate. So I hope this has been helpful from a beginner perspective. There are many great resources out there if you need further assistance building a team. Again, let's head back. These stats I gave you for Flutter main are not perfect. Please do not take them seriously. But they'll provide you with a good, I guess, understanding of how EV sliders work and how to allocate your IVs and EVs. And with that, have a great day.